I am not a politician. I'm not here to disprove anything. My book, when I finally not get lazy and get off my rear end and do it, finish it, will be about the philosophy of singing. Voice will be not about a method. There are no methods. They're all the same. You can buy them in books. You just have to know how to use them. That's what we're talking about. First question.
Would it be possible, since you have so many students in the room, that you could actually take a few minutes and show us the paper?
No, I'm not here to do that. It's nothing I can explain on one foot. I'm not Hillel. It's nothing that I want. If you want to know about it and talk to me without any commitments to study with me, I'll give you my card. You can call me and I have time to do that. I'm not here. I'm off, actually. This is being off. I work. I'm looking forward. I have, yes?
My question was, a lot of us are wanting to see what you do since you have so many students in the room, and we wondered if you could give us an example of
how I do what I do. I would prefer not to do that. Thank you. I have people dying to call me, and I have to make a living. So at 2:30 today, someone will call for a lesson for a half hour and pay me $100. So I'm going to do that. Okay? So, but I see you next week, Monday at 2 o'clock, Tuesday at 2 o'clock, Wednesday at 2 o'clock, Thursday at 2 o'clock. And that's 4 lessons for next week, and hopefully you'll be here on time. And if you can't be here, call me up. You know what people do when they don't call me and they miss it? They pay for it. I'm not even charging you for your missed lessons. And I charge you shit for your lessons. And you don't call me to let me know you're not good, whatever it was. Whatever you do, everyone can have the situation. Being a helper is certainly part and parcel of my calling. And I love to help people. But when you start to walk the cross line and you take advantage of that and you turn me into the help, which is like curb service or that maids who roll in and clean up after the party, that's when you get into trouble with me. Because I'm no one's maid. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you pay me $100,000 a year, $30,000 a year, it doesn't matter. No money in the world can buy that kind of abuse. I don't do this to play with myself. I do this to support my family. Parnassa. Okay? I have you Monday at 2, Tuesday at 2, Wednesday at 2, and Thursday at 2. I can't talk anymore, so I'll blow myself out from emotions. I like you, I care about you, and I want you to get the rules right. It may take you 2 years to get it right, but you'll figure it out eventually. Have a good Shabbos. It's just appropriate to tell people you're not going to show up. He has been told this 100 times, at least 100 times, and he still can't get it. Some people are stupid, but I'm not going to let his stupidity get in the way of my feelings about being treated that way. I'm just not going to let it. There's no excuse. Here we go.
My entire life has been spent in a pursuit of perfecting my vocal technique and making my voice more beautiful and more accessible, and because I live to sing. I guess I love to eat too, but not really. Nothing like this. There's no comparison. There really isn't. Eating is is a substitute for things. Singing is not a substitute. Singing is the ikar. It's the main reason for my life, actually.
You just had a vocal doctor look at your throat. No, I just have to confirm with a picture. Those chords are perfect.
They are perfect. But the rest of the body sings.
What I do has nothing to do with ego. But if you tell that to most of us when we go to study voice, we look at me as if I'm crazy. I'm not interested in your ego. I want you to get rid of your ego with my work. Save it for the coaches, and save it for the performances, and save it for the applause, and save it for anything else you want to, because you gave joy to the audience, and if they scream and yell at you, you deserve the ego. I want determination, like an animal. And I want you to do the way I do it, not the way you invented it.
Oh,
And Midrash, expositions of biblical text. If you want to be a terrific rabbi, really at top of your game, you got to be a midrashist. You really got to be able to just snap, crackle, and pop with those midrashes. That's what people are really blown away with. Look at your own tradition. What blew people away about Jesus of Nazareth was the fact that he had parables. Those parables have changed the face of the human race. Those parables were midrash. They were a form of midrash. Midrash is not just midrash, it has a school to it, it has a technique to it. It has various categories to it. That's not unique to Jesus, I'm sorry to tell you that.
Is it true that the synagogue go back even to the exile?
Sure, I can prove it to you from your own tradition. How about the great synagogue in northern Israel where Jesus preached? What's the name of that synagogue? Come on.
He preached
Mount
in
Hermon.
Nazareth in the synagogue there, and he also was in Capernaum.
Capernaum, you see? That's it, you got it. So you deserve to wear that collar. Press the second, mommy.
I met Don Roberts in 1965 at the Hebrew Union College School of Sacred Music. It was my first day, and I was waiting to audition. We were in this room, I think it was room 202, and we were both sitting there, introduced ourselves, and I noticed he was wearing this green velour shirt that I had never seen anyone wear. The style of it, I'd never seen it sort of zipped into a turtleneck.
Velour shirt with a zipper down the front, and he liked the shirt and admired the shirt.
He says to me, "You like the shirt?" I said, "Yeah, it's a beautiful shirt." And he says, he pulls off the shirt, and then with like a stiff arm, he goes like this, take it, it's yours, take it."
I liked something about him, I guess, and I was attracted to his personality, and that was my way of saying I wanted to be a friend, and I did something that probably very few people would ever do, yet alone even think of doing.
And it was kind of a nutsy thing to do, but he didn't seem to be like certifiably nuts. He just seemed to be, wired. The rest of the day, he walks around, he had this big belly, and he goes up and down in weight. In those days, it was huge. And he's got this huge Moby Dick white belly, and he's not wearing an undershirt. And I what are you going to do the rest of the day in school? He said he puts on a raincoat. The day of his audition for the school, he's wearing a raincoat.
People who smoke and sing, even though it's very bad for the vocal folds, it for the lungs, because of singing, you have more of a chance to keep your lungs cleaner. Not clean, but cleaner than let's say, a person who doesn't use their lungs in a singing capacity. I do not encourage singers to smoke. But I would just say this, just because you don't smoke doesn't make you a great singer. And just because you do smoke, it doesn't make you a great singer. There are great singers who smoke, and there are great singers who don't smoke. When Meredith comes, you have to be very serious, because Meredith is so serious about her voice. Oh, yes, she's so perfect. She's so perfect. Meredith takes about 3 to 5 showers a day. Do that for me.
When I first started working with him, I thought he was completely insane. I did not know what to make of him at all.
All you have to do is smile on the on and everything will go to the right place.
I didn't really care about singing all that much. It was just something that I thought was fun, and he seemed so enthusiastic and obsessed about it that it made me excited about it to go in and experience that with him in lessons. Let's put it this way. If Don had not come into my life, I would not be a singer.
We're done. I was born in the Bronx, New York, May 15th, 1945, and I grew up in the Bronx, New York. Same place I was born. Upper middle class Jewish family, very New Yorkish and Jewish culturally. I love the Bronx. I love everything about it. I love the people. I love
I would never change the Bronx for nothing.
I'm a New Yorker, man. When you're a New Yorker,
to
you don't
enjoy
have a
it.
prejudice bone in your body.
Exactly.
At 5 years old, my father, blessed memory, gave me a phonograph with London sampler recording. I still own that record, which was a revolution at the time. All these opera singers, Delmonico, Di Stefano, Simeonato, it's Tebaldi, etc., Chisiepi, and I became obsessed with it at 5. I wanted to be an athletic singer. I identified in my head like sports. I felt that those people were sports people. And then I associated with boxing. And then I also was a Jewish kid and I loved my synagogue. My synagogue was right for me at the time, and I became very close with the cantor and the rabbi. This is where I used to hang out from 8 years old forward. And I used to come here because it was a place to escape, you know what I'm saying? It was a place that I could actually feel I could be myself and not feel bad about it. This is it. It came to me in the synagogue at 8. I can be a singer like that and also be religious. What a profession. In 1963, I became a student at the Hebrew Union College School of Sacred Music in New York City.
Don was taken seriously by some of us, but most of the rabbling herd felt that he couldn't get over the nutsiness of him. They couldn't get past it. You know, they saw one thing with a tunnel vision.
Really build it, or you'll find that the tone drops deep down.
They didn't see his brilliance, or they didn't want to see his brilliance. And so they would make fun. They would make fun of his noises, of his bulging eyes, of the sound of his voice even.
I once heard him, he was not having a good day, and I described his voice a little bit like an inverted vacuum cleaner. It was just, I couldn't believe it. You know, I said, there's obviously a voice there, but it's like, this man said to himself, I'm going to find out how you really sing. And he went to a number of teachers, some great people he heard. He worked and studied with some big names, but in the end run, he did it himself, which is how he does everything. If you listen to him, he makes sounds that I don't think some of the greatest tenors in the world today can make.
He and I had this thing in common about singing. We had to become great singers. We had to know singing and understand singing. In the end, he got it before I did, and he taught it to me. Going to Don is like a workout in the gym. Don is a personal trainer. Don doesn't take care of your musical needs and your artistic needs so much. Not that he doesn't touch on it at all, but he takes care of your instrument. And then you, in turn, have to go out and sing. He works with the muscle, and he gets the muscle to do what it should do so you can do what you need to do as a singer.
Six.
You know it's impossible.
No, it's not.
This concept that Don has of singing like an animal.
You need to be, when you sing, you need to be less artsy-fartsy. You need to be physical when you sing. You need to be an animal when you sing. All that other music that you sing is great, but it's artsy-fartsy. It has to be animal. It has to be pure animal in applying these methods, these ideas, so the voice will begin to flourish within its vibrato. The physicality will enter the throat, sort of kind of singing. I'm not saying that's what it's. It's an exaggeration. This kind of as opposed to the full physical. Got it?
He says, sing like an animal. It's open your mouth and go. Don't think about it. Don't overanalyze it. Do it. It's tough, and it's not something that I'm, used to doing in my everyday life, but it's something I'm having to learn to do to be a better singer. A lot of us aren't animalistic in how we go about it. We're very, taught at a young age to be very polite, be very respectful. That's how I was raised. On the stage, that's not necessarily going to help you out. You need to get rid of that, to get to the heart, to get to the meat.
When you sing, you have to be a react. It reacts. It's like this. It's like, what's your name, Eric? You don't think about it. You just know your name is Eric. You know what I'm saying? Singing is exactly that. It's an involuntary thing. It's like taking a shit. You tell your bowels how to work before it excavates. Seriously.
An animal has no hang-ups. They don't go to see a shrink. They're hungry, they kill it, and they eat.
ray gun.
Does a lion think before it roars? Ah! Sing like a man!
I started going to the Met at 11. I had subscription seats. My parents were well-off people, and I was their fat little Jewish boy, and they spoiled me. And whatever I wanted, I got. And I went every night to the Met, watching things from backstage, in prompters boxes, in rehearsal studios. And the more I watched it, the more I wanted to do it, but I didn't have the chutzpah at the time to do it because I wasn't happy with my voice. And as a result of that, I continued to go on and study with all the voice teachers.
Buckingham, Torrigi, Frizzell.
Studied with 17 of them, I think. The greatest voice teacher I ever studied with, which was a privilege, was Martinelli. Giovanni Martinelli was probably the third-ranking tenor of the 20th century. In the process of that experience, I learned a lot.
He had somehow figured out the way the great grandmasters of the of the golden age of the opera had sung. It felt almost as if he had, been visited by Garcia in his bed or something at night.
He has to have things. That's what drives him. And the thing that he has to have most of all is knowledge. He has the most impressive library of books that I've ever seen. Most of them are about religious matters, religion, not just Judaism, and artistic matters. He has a DVD collection of movies, which is his relaxation passion. That is unparalleled. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands of DVDs. Nothing gives him more pleasure than to have him have people to come over his house and to show them a movie.
But anyway, I've called for a particular purpose, and I would like to ask you, do you have in stock the new Scorsese collection that just came out this week? You just got it in. Very good. But I would like you to make sure that you got it in by holding it, securing it, and marking it with my name on it, because I'm on my way to Vestal, New York to purchase it. I am holding. Hello? Oh, hello. Hi. Oh, yes, you have it. Now, the next question. Are you holding it in your hand as you say to me you have it? All right, let's go.
I met Don when I was younger. I met him when I was a sophomore in high school. Always in the back of my mind, the performing was, I wanted to do that really badly, but something about my upbringing, modesty, etc., kind of made me hide that for a while.
When I met him, he was going to be a school teacher. He did all this in, how many years is that? 7 years? Something like that. It's astounding.
His technique and method has allowed me to really conquer anything that I want to do vocally.
There are a lot of people that laugh about the fact that we have lessons on the phone, and they make jokes. What is it going to be next? A fax lesson?
The question is, why does Donald teach on the telephone? How does he do that? Because I'm not listening for sounds primarily. I hear muscle pulls better than I do in person. It's almost like an x-ray machine in a sense. And as long as I can hear those muscle pulls working interrelatedly in the way they have to work according to the physiology of the throat, based upon the master teachers that began in the Schola Cantorum back in the age of Constantine, then I can teach a voice, period.
I think a lot of people don't know what they're talking about when they're teaching voice, and therefore, if they ever heard, that somebody was taking a voice lesson over the phone, that, they would immediately dismiss the teacher, the method, etc.
Very funny. And it is funny, and we laugh, and Don laughs about it. But the fact remains that you can hear what someone is doing on the phone. You can tell if it's right or wrong, if you've got good ears.
I'll be on the phone with him and he'll be like, I need you to open your mouth more. Your mouth isn't open enough. And I don't know how for the life of me he can tell that.
To me, that would be a little difficult, because if you don't see Don in action, you'll lose a lot of it.
There's no question that I should be coming and seeing him more often than I am. But I have a busy career. Today's technology is vastly different. We have digital phones. We have, this is not the 30s,
Can you make the E from the bottom one?
Sounds good.
Good. Rest a minute.
Okay.
It's a little bit. That's a little.
Whatever you say,
that's
Uncle Don.
That's a little stressful, Mommy.
Actually, it feels re-energizing. My body, my whole thing, I was like depressed, and you got me up now.
Yeah, that's very good symptomology, because if this wasn't right, you wouldn't feel that way.
I wouldn't feel all right.
These singers are crazy people. Just crazy.
Don has a lot of, as we say in Yiddish, mishigas, which means craziness. We're all a little bit crazy, and maybe he's a little bit more crazy.
Good, we're done for today. Very good. Tremendous progress. Yeah.
It's quite a sound when you're sitting in a chair.
Forget about my sound. Forget about my sound. I've been working on my voice for 50 years.
No, I'm just saying.
Nothing personal. I'm happy you like it, but I'm not here to give you my sound. I'm here to give you your sound.
But I can appreciate it.
Yes.
Sometimes he comes across as being very narcissistic, And maybe he is.
I do this all day long, every day. I'm not out there singing in the world concerts, but let me tell you, what I do is equal to singing a full
And then it's all becomes me. I.
The problem with Don is that he's so erudite that sometimes it sounds like bullshit.
Anybody who does not take their voices seriously, who are performing artists, using their voices as their prominent source of income, support for their families, security in the community, and legacy for their life, will one day be very sorry they didn't listen to me or anybody else who encouraged them to do so. Period. Look at the sounds that you're making. Do you hear that? Do you believe that you made that sound? Please respond to me. There's some facts that exist about Don Roberts that will always exist because that's who Don Roberts is, and unto thine own self be true, as the adage goes. And I certainly don't have to apologize anymore for Don Roberts. I did that plenty in my life. I don't do that anymore. It's not permitted. If you don't want to study with me or be my friend or communicate with me, then you have a choice not to do that.
80% of what he says is really bullshit. But the other 20% of what he has to say is worth more than 100% of what most people have to say. So with Donald, you have to wade through the garbage to get to the jewels. But the jewels are there.
I would say that my relationship with Donald is divided into two categories: before the mountaintop and after the mountaintop.
But that was fabulous.
The fist and the open.
Well, I have a certain technique. When you play modern music, you have to have
skill.
Those notes have changed. The last note you did on the top one started to want to go into the old place, and then it popped into the new place. Full through the new place. So unless you lean through that little dot in the big circle, you will not experience this new coordination, because that's a whole different sound than the other one. The other sound is nasal, twangy sounding, weird sounding, and it doesn't really match what's below the break field. But this one now is bringing up all that power to receive the new coordinated head voice. Take advantage of it. That's a real great sound. You don't want the one, and I know it's not exact, but it's like this. I want the one that really is two-fisted. And don't be afraid, because you have it.
My vocal struggle is not really a struggle vocally, it's how I use my energy. And I would say that that would be a generalization of my life. And Donald called me on it. And he called me on it in a very confrontational way, but I took it very personally. It was a very personal issue for me, and it still remains a personal issue for me, because it's not just with me vocally, it's with me as a human being.
Don't start the bite with your mouth. You gotta really keep the mouth open and use that energy. Don't get tired on it. There's only one sound that you want, the sound.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out...
You don't figure out anything, just do what you
No,
gotta...
wait, I'm just trying to figure out in my muscles how to lean on that. And that's always, the zui has always been the hardest for me.
Sorry, I wasn't patient to give you the same answer. You don't figure out anything. All you do is do the 4 basic things that will keep the voice going. One is you pursue the voice. You lean on it like you lean on the Torah, lean on someone's shoulder. The other thing is that you take a primary breath. That's required because that sets in motion the structure. And outside of that, you think of soft and loud, meaning you sing loud the same way you sing soft, except one is softer, one is louder. The tension is the same. There's no difference. You never sing off the voice as a parenthetical, always on the voice.
Donald is a very out there, energetic person. For me, it's my energy is I hold it very close.
Every singer must be aware of their throat, like they must be aware of their sexual organs if they're person. If you're not, you're a fool. Period. I don't care who you study with, what you do, where you are, however it is. You must get over the hang-ups and be aware of who you are. If not, you're going to get into trouble, personally or professionally. That's a fact. Don't believe me? Wait and see it happen.
You know, I realized I had two paths to go down. I could live in the path of what was comfortable for me, where I could have control over my situation, or I could live in the path of confronting who I actually am.
Don't do that other one. See, when I sing through the passage, I don't care about anything. I just rolls over and it comes. Watch, listen carefully. Try it. Now you can pseudo sound it. You can do that kind of stuff, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about energy. Having a sound a throat that receives an inordinate amount of energy, and at best is abnormal. Bill Wybell was the chief prompter of the Met when I was growing up, and we became very close friends. I encountered Franco Corelli for the first time in 1961 at his debut. I had begun. Bill Wybell got me in with a pass. I wanted to hear his debut because everyone in New York was excited about this tenor coming to New York. Bill was telling me about him. Wait till you hear this guy Franco Corelli. You won't believe it, Donald. And he used to egg me on about it. He used to get me thrilledly excited about all these people. I mean, I used to say, Donald, you gotta come to the opera. I mean, he was really into me. He really liked me. He brought a lot of great pleasure to me at a time when I needed to have that kind of ego gratification because my biological mother, was an extremely debilitating kind of personality. She would suck us dry, basically, in her own problems. And we spent our whole lives catering to her. We didn't have much time to think about the things that were important to us.
Sometimes Don likes to have this, what we call Don talk. He goes, in the middle of an exercise, they're going, okay, Mommy, that's enough, Mommy. He has this mother fixation.
Rest a second, Mommy.
Well, Mommy comes from wanting Mommy and needing Mommy.
He had a rather difficult upbringing, to say the least, and he got past it, and somewhat.
But she was my mother, and I don't deny it, and I certainly admire many things about her, but unfortunately they were clothed in a very dysfunctional personality. There's really nothing more to say about her. She would throw upon me all kinds of incredible privileges, of which most people would drool to have. You know, it's the kind of thing that you tell it to people, you get embarrassed a little because some people wouldn't even believe it's true. But it is true, and it can all be documented. And I don't have to document anything to anybody. Anyone who's ever talked to me about music knows that I'm a genius when it comes to the subject of music and the history of music and experiential music. And I can date and prove everything that I say about my experience. So I don't have to answer anyone in any form, shape, or manner. It's their problem, not my problem. But getting back to Franco Corelli.
Franco Corelli was the paradigm of great singing for us in those days. He was the essence of virility in a male singer.
In 1961, Franco and I had an encounter. I was in the audience and he was on the stage. And I will never forget that evening because he was a freak of nature, period.
It hit you like a train is hitting you in the chest, the sound of that voice. And it was like, whoa! And it wasn't the fact that it was just big, it was beautiful.
Like Muhammad Ali was to boxing, he was to opera singing. People would dress in formal clothing to hear him sing. It was a time that was the leftovers of an era that's gone. Today you can go to the Met in ripped shorts and watch you around the place in t-shirts, and it's a different time. And I'm sorry that there's a part of me that would have liked that to not have disappeared, because it affects us all. We all become part of it. We all wear shitty clothes to the Met now.
It's $1,000 to the IRS. This is Darren. Well, when I was, I think, 4, my parents got divorced. And shortly after that, he moved to Milwaukee, Chicago. He's moving around a lot. I think involved in a couple different synagogues as a cantor. I can't say it was the most father-son playing ball in the backyard experience there was.
He really wasn't there for me as a parent. I mean, he wasn't a parent. In our moments of goodness, and I do want to say that there were plenty of them. They're just kind of interspersed through the years. I've always enjoyed just wonderful conversations with him, but it's a conversation you have with a good friend, not really like a dad or a daddy.
As a child, him not being there was very difficult because I was also involved in certain situations where you have someone else who comes to live with you, meaning my stepfather. I remember after their wedding, after my mom got married in the wedding, I went upstairs and cried underneath the bed, and it was just it was tough because where was my father and who was replacing him?
Over the years when I was growing up, I needed him for things that he just couldn't be there for. And so I was just constantly disappointed.
Whenever I did see him, I felt, that the support was there, that the excitement was there, almost like hanging out. I'd have a friend down in Florida and, my dad would order Italian food for 900 people. There'd be 4 of us sitting at the table. And next thing you know, he'd be sitting in the shower singing. He comes out in the towel, it's just belly and everything just hanging anywhere, and sits down at the table as if, nothing's occurred, nothing's wrong. It's just the norm.
The dead skate.
I call him on Father's Day because I genuinely want to, and there's some, definitely there's a need in me to call him, and he's my father, and I feel really good about that. But there were many years where I just could care less if it was Father's Day for him.
What do we say? Do we say Grandpa Donald?
I'm happy that we're all kind of connected again, and time has an amazing way of doing that. Time and sort of future generations, and just realizing that you still are the product of where you came from, and just kind of understanding more about what that means.
Grandpa Donald's here. Grandpa Donald. Hi. Oh.
Okay, I went to a voice doctor for my voice problem, and he has written me a letter recommending a voice evaluation.
I don't think I ever had an exceptionally great voice or beautiful voice. I just sang a lot, and I sang folk songs. I grew up with this folk ethos, if you will, that a voice had to be natural. It just had to come out of you. And the minute you started to train it, and once the voice sounded refined, then it wasn't true. Okay. We probably do more harm to ourselves than anybody can do to us. It's very hard to admit that you have a voice problem. I love these. So finally, I went to see a real voice doctor, probably one of the biggest ones in the world. He looks at me for 5 minutes. We go into his office, we sit down. He said, I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but you have a vocal condition called spasmodic dysphonia. When you have spasmodic dysphonia, you talk like this. You can't sustain a pitch. I was talking like that. So he said the only thing you can do is to have injections of Botox in your throat. You have to have an injection 2 or 3 times a year. For 2 or 3 days after an injection, you can't talk because your cords are swollen, because you've just shot poison into your vocal cords. I've never had a Botox shot. Never. And I never will. I don't care how many medical textbooks it's written in. I want the truth. No one's seen The Voice. No one knows how it works except for one man, Don Roberts.
If you've ever seen a voice lesson of Geely's, or if you've ever seen a voice lesson of Alfredo Kraus, or even of Moshe Kusevitsky and others, you would understand how voice was taught by the master teachers. It wasn't la 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 la, now sing the song and go to this opera house. It's nothing like that. It's building a throat like you build a building.
The first one to recommend Don was Jackie Mendelson, and he said, Jeff, I really think that Don can help you. He does these things with the voice, really things nobody else does. So that got me intrigued. Don said, call a couple of the people who study with me. Talk to them about, because you need to know what you're getting into. And we started working. Each week on the telephone. Occasionally, Don would say to me, what is your voice worth to you? Is it worth $5,000? Is it worth $10,000?
This is a very deep existential journey that we're on. It has intense ramifications. It's related to everything that you hold sacred in your life.
People said, you're sounding good, sounding better.
And people know that you are one.
I was at 3% in the year 2000. When I started with Don, I was like 15%. We're up to about 60%, 65%. I can do things I could never do before.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Isabella, a.k.a. Schneppen. Hi, my lovey.
Yeah, he's a little beautiful chocolate kid.
Little mocha baby.
Little mocha
It's
mix.
a little mocha baby.
Isabella is a beautiful girl. 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 La 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 la. Is a beautiful girl. La 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 la. Is a beautiful girl. Isabella. Isabella. She's great.
If you go upstairs and look at my room, it'll look like a junkyard. I hate it.
Your room is not looking like a junkyard
Yes,
now.
it does.
You have, hey, Isabella, you have a lot of shit in your room. There's no doubt.
Daddy.
I'm sorry, please forgive me.
Look
You have a
what's
lot
right
of
here.
stuff in your room. The bottom line of the matter is you have a lot of garbage in your room. And we have to get rid of it.
It's not garbage, it's junk.
Junk.
It's
Excuse me.
stupid.
Yeah, shit.
Daddy!
Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that word shit.
Daddy!
Oh,
Oh my God.
God forgive me. Please forgive
I'm
me.
not gonna forgive you. Can't believe you.
Why are you smiling?
Shut the car, yo. Chill.
This kind of thing. This is
got to McGill in Montreal, did 4 years of an undergraduate and 2 more years for a master's degree. Stage experience was fantastic. I did upwards of, say, 11 or 12 roles while I was there at McGill. But by the time I was done, I mean, I had a master's degree and I felt like I couldn't really sing.
Singing has become an academic subject at a conservatory, and that was the beginning of the demise of singing.
I went away from Don to study in undergrad. I found like they kind of take advantage and they kind of just use you for what they need you for and then toss you aside if that's not what they need you for.
The things surrounding singing can be an academic subject, but the process of singing is an unacademic subject.
I had one point of view, and they explained that chest-dominated singing is the way to go. That's how all the greats did it.
Nick shadows her, and at your service, for surely as you bear your name, I bear you a bright future.
I always avoid the chest voice because that's the bane of the devil of the singer. And the reason we like the chest voice so much, myself included at the beginning, was because we can feel something, we can hear something. Because chest voice has a lot of vibrations on your body. And I'm not saying we shouldn't sing with chest. I have a lot of chest in my voice. I use the chest for what its nature is, power. What is the head voice? The head voice is the voice. How do I know that? Because the head voice has no limitations.
I would go and muscle and try and make these dark sounds. That was another thing, that I walked in McGill my first day as a baritone, lyric baritone, and 6 years later had been dubbed a bass baritone. My range had gone to hell. It was down in the La Brea tar pits. Meredith was one of the best singers at McGill, by far. It was amazing. She opened her mouth on the first day, and all the singers took notice. Meredith knew I was looking for a new voice teacher. She said, "You know what? Come Tony Anta, give him a try." So hell, I was curious. I wanted to know how Meredith was making these sounds. Who was this guy? I wasn't being fair to the process to not make myself available to him at all times. And the best way to do that was to come down here and be with him. And it was very old-fashioned, the way singers used to, you'd be an apprentice to the master. And he's got his voice studio here all set up, and I work with him, 3 times a week. You can't expedite the process to any more than is possible. The voice is a muscle, and it needs to be trained.
Best note I ever heard you sing on that note.
I taught him well, and repetition pulls him. The cleaner hearts again shall be for him the cleaner well.
Think things and it'll work. If you think lyric, it'll be lyric. If you think dark and dramatic, it'll be that. If you think this, it'll be that. It's all imagery.
He's provoking you and making you actively think about the subject matter. But this doesn't just happen in the voice studio. He's going to do this, 24 hours a day.
Yeah, I mean, Mulholland Drive was not my favorite film. I'm quick to say that.
It's the same with your voice studies. Because it's a free associative phenomena, it troubles you. We've been through that.
I mean, we're talking about a movie, and if I don't feel necessarily the same way about something, he's going to challenge me. Well, why do you feel that way? How come it is? It's tough to do that on an ongoing basis.
Movies are not black and white. They all have something, even the worst of them. The least of them, the least of them, I'm choosing my words very carefully because I have to be a professor now. We're not talking about what he thinks about the movie. That's his right to think. He can think it's a piece of duty. What I'm talking about is you just can't be dismissive about things. That's what I'm saying. That is not acceptable to me by anybody because it's immoral.
He watched the entire movie.
Well,
I didn't dismiss it. I was just saying, maybe the absurdist comment wasn't accurate in that.
Now he's admitting exactly what I'm saying to be correct.
Why did you talk to Stefan? Why are you talking to me?
I used the word absurd to mean over the top.
That's Brian De Palma.
Exactly.
But so is any movie where someone is getting shot to death with their brains hanging out on the street over the top too, some people think. Some people think any killing in a movie is over the top. Some people think any blood in a movie is over the top. That's what I'm saying. Over the top is not necessarily Brian De Palma in some people's thought processes. Would be expected because of the style of the way he makes films. That's all. We have a tendency in our culture and our society to dismiss everything if we don't like it. We act emotionally, but yet if someone who's taking charge of us deals with it emotionally, then we are very, very upset. And the world stands still, and very few, if any, percentage-wise, ever succeed. And that's one of the reasons we have no talent anymore in any of the vocal arts, because people practice that profession all the time. They're all selling their egos as opposed to selling the science and art of singing. Where are the singers? We don't have any.
I used to be a young kid and used to look up to these great stars who are now either dead or long retired, and there's nobody to replace them. There's just a handful of people in the world that are singing anything like a Bergonzi, Tebaldi. Where are they?
What we've done, which Americans are great at doing, is rationalizing things. Now we don't have a star system anymore in America. When I grew up, we still had a star system at the Opera House. We still had pop singers that were phenomenal. We still had incredible Broadway singers. We don't have that anymore. We have one opera star who now represents us all as the star, and her name is Renee Fleming. That's it. If you can find me another one. American, I'm talking about. I'm not talking about Welsh people who come here and pretend they're Americans. I'm talking about American singers. We don't have any. Okay, Jose. Now, Meredith, it's very important now that you begin to realize that all of these are tones. They're not manipulation.
Right. No, I need to tell myself that I can't.
Yeah, because you're just not getting what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Just like I do it. Same thing. Now you're talking. Just let it do what it wants. You learn by letting it do what it wants and observing. It's observation. It's like a scientist. Can you open your face? Let me see how far you can open your mouth. I always ask you this. That's what I want you to do.
Okay.
It's a whole different voice when you do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're vomiting into the.
Okay.
Just keep on the vowel. The vowels are the key to all. Don't change the vowel.
Did I change the vowel?
Sure, you're trying to set it up. I'll play you 100 sopranos from the Metropolitan history here, and you'll hear every single woman have pure vowels like a tenor.
Yep.
I just heard Tebaldi sing Traviata. You could understand every vowel from the highest note to the lowest note. You can open your mouth more, can't you? It's no negotiation with this, Meredith. I'm telling you, every detail is crucial. It's all in the minutiae. So opening your mouth this way or this way are two different things.
I feel like I change the vowel when I open my mouth that
Meredith, I'm here to tell you that. I'm a facilitator.
Okay.
That's my job. I'll point it out. That's the next lesson. You've crippled your throat with these things. You have to retrain it now to get back to the original plays.
Right.
I think you can... I have to do some major surgery with you. Continue it. I'm sorry, Meredith.
No, I know.
The throat is a reality, but everyone wants to run it as if it's a Disneyland. It's not. And those are the people that separate the difference between making it or not. I want to tell you something. I know you well enough, like I know my kid, that if you don't acquire this, master this, you'll go out of your mind. And if you let all these idiots manipulate you and make you want to be into what they believe you should be as opposed to what you are and what you've been blessed to have, you're out of it. Then you need to really get into serious psychodynamics.
Well, I don't think it's other people. I think it's more
Well, other
my
people's
own...
a metaphor for the environment. Anything in the environment outside of our internal maturations.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying to you.
No, I know. I know that I know that it's
You've had a taste of the real world vocally, my dear. You will never, ever be able to forget. I don't care if you study with every teacher on Broadway between Lincoln Center and 103rd Street. You will never, ever get this kind of, you've experienced it already, this kind of harmony in your throat from any of them. They may teach you about art, they can teach you about how to interpret, they can teach you about how to this. None of them will ever build a throat. And how do I know that with such candor? Because they don't have any evidence of it. If they bring back 10 students that sound like they come from an age of singing when singing was a respectable science and art merging, then I will change my opinion. I want no more than to hear great singers at the Metropolitan Opera who sing with that kind of ability. Mm-hmm. You know, you can have the greatest costumes, you can move on stage like a ballet dancer, you can look gorgeous, you can have glamour. If you can't sing and bring those chords together in harmony, then you don't fulfill the mystery, the great mystery of the throat, which is the alchemy. Cesare called it the alchemy of the throat. And that's the truth. And I discovered that alchemy. I gave away a third of my life, if not more, to learn this, and wouldn't stop until I figured it out. And someone comes in and minimizes it for me, and I'm not saying you're doing that, it's outrageous to me. It could drive me insane. That's what I'm saying. Just trying it because I love you, not because I have to give you a hard time.
No, I know. You're not giving me a hard time. You're helping me.
You've been on the phone with your friend Joan, your partner. I don't care. When you do that, it's an embarrassment.
Donald,
Everyone would agree with me here.
An embarrassment? Who's
Yes.
embarrassed?
It's an embarrassment that you can't come home and take 20 minutes to get ready, and now we have to leave in 15.
When I'm late on Shabbos, every experience of betrayal ever experienced by Donald Roberts comes to fore. We don't have to leave for 20 more minutes.
It doesn't matter. Excuse me. Don't kill me for the 5.
One of his key things. It's not about you, meaning me. You know, he'll say things to me that for a lot of people will be, how could you let someone speak to you that way? You can go on your own, honey.
No.
Well.
No. I am still alive. I'm not dead.
Thanks for clarifying that, honey bun.
It's not a joke, Barb. It won't be funny when I'm not here anymore and you have no one to pick on and yell at and scream at.
Wait a minute. Who's yelling and screaming? Well, he says it's not about you. I need to be able to express myself this way. This is how I deal with my anxiety. Now, Donald's the kind of person who, because of his upbringing, is really good at getting what he wants. So there was a point at which I became strong enough to say, that's just over the line. And, go express yourself somewhere else. So, and it wasn't really about expressing himself. It was about getting what he wanted. And sometimes he wasn't going to get it. That was hard for him because he always got what he wanted. He didn't get love, but he got everything else. So, he had to accept that it was the other way with me. I'll give you love, but you can't have everything else you want. That's not fair.
Barbara has always been there for me. Barbara is the essence of goodness. And she put up with me in ways that no one has ever put up with me.
How she's put up with my father for the last 30 years is remarkable to me.
I really liken Barbara to be kind of saintly with respect to, kind of keeping that relationship together.
My personality can be abusive, and at times I weaken and I get crazy, but for the most part I can snap out of it in 5 minutes.
He really does complete me in a certain way. So I need him. He's my family.
People like me believe that that's your job to bring people to God. Go out and convert the world. But just make sure you leave the Jews alone, because that is inappropriate. It negates the whole purpose of what it is that you believe in. Jews don't need to be converted to anything. They are there already. What we need to do is we need to bring people to God, and Christians do that better than anybody else. The Sermon on the Mount is pure Torah. It says in Zachariah, Bayomahu Yaranai Echad U'Shmo Echad. On that day, it ends every single Jewish service for the last millennia. On that day, the Lord shall be one, and his name shall be one. Did you ever hear that before? That should solve a lot of problems about Gentiles and Jews. Just reading that one passage. Thank you.
All singing is spiritual. It's truly a connection to that which we don't carry around with us. If you have a personality that's insecure or depressed or lonely or something, music, and certainly for a singer singing, is the switch that turns that off.
If you were to draw a caricature of my body, my head would be like this, my torso would be like this, my legs like this, my throat like this. Everything is determined by how I feel on a given day. If I wake up with a little hoarseness, I'm depressed for the entire day. I had to deal with this chronic hoarseness. I mean, it was just the bane of my existence. I had to sing in front of my colleagues many times, in front of my cantorial colleagues, and fail. Many times I failed. I would get up there in front of 500 cantors and be hoarse in the middle of the number. And I'd always finish. I'd always get through. I'd keep going no matter what, but it was like going through a cauldron. And when I met Don as a voice teacher in 1996, at that point, I did not know he was a voice teacher. It happened one day during a recording session that I was doing, and it was being done in a church which had great acoustics, a terrific organ, and I was recording in hoarse as hell. And Don was there cheering me on, trying to get me to, to have energy and to sing through. And afterwards, when it was over, we had a quiet moment together, and I cried. And I said, Don, I'm done. I don't want to put myself out there in a concert in front of people. And then and only then did Don say, Jackie, I've been teaching voice for about 5 years, successfully. And I was flabbergasted. I had no idea. He has the ability to keep that kind of a secret, even though we're, close friends, even though we were like brothers.
I think Jack and I see each other as serious people who have something to say that we bounce off each other from. And that's a very unusual kind of relationship. We used to be very combative at times, and that was the time when we hadn't yet defined our relationship, the uniqueness of our relationship, what his skills were and what mine were, and et cetera, et cetera. And I think that changed about 10 years ago to being fully fermented. And it happened in a very funny way. It happened with voice.
We worked like crazy, and it was a slow process, and the hoarseness didn't go away just poof. And it's still not totally gone. I was singing with an abundance of chest voice, and he got my head voice to seep down into my chest voice somehow, and the hoarseness got less and less and less. I used to get wonderful comments, in shul or at a concert about my personality, about my cantorial music, my chazanut, how wonderful it was, and I could cry and make people cry. Now they say, "My God, what a great voice you have." For the first time in my life. Don did that for me.
One more yo-yo-yo ma. Yo-yo-yo ma!
Yo-yo-yo ma!
Leave it at that now. It's enough stretching for now. Let it set straight and thin so we can proceed to the next step. Here you go.
Thank you.
This is very complex strategic thinking predicated upon the same 15 patterns. Got it? That's the truth. Anyone thinks I'm nuts or crazy because I talk like this about those patterns? Let them think what they want, because I am not crazy and I'm not nuts. I just have incredible anxiety. I get bored very easily. You understand? You understand my inner meanderings? I'm being straight with you. No matter what anyone thinks of Barbra Streisand's politics, opinions, directing in movies, the woman has chutzpah. And that is the beginning of synergy. She's a daredevil of energy. That's what's worth studying. Not, oh, I'm going to be a star. Good. In case you doubt what this does, whatever it is.
You understand that you need me to coach you on that,
That's a falsetto.
Just do La Speranza. It matters because no singer in the world will ever sing it the way you just did.
I'm not performing it.
I understand, but you want to do it on the eval so that you show me that I...
La Speranza.
Oh, thank you. I love hearing true Italian.